What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show live here on DSM-Media's Philadelphia YouTube channel. Guys, first and foremost, if you are new to the channel, if you like the content, if you want to be interactive throughout today's show or any of our shows here at DSM, make sure to support by smashing that subscribe button. We greatly appreciate it. It is the best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here on the screen with your host. I am one half of them this morning, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. Feels like forever since we've done one of these shows, man, and a lot of time has passed, but the Philadelphia Eagles are now 10-1 with an overtime victory over the Buffalo Bills on Sunday afternoon. We're going to break down the entirety of this ball game. Scotty was there. We'll get his thoughts on the crowd and everything that went down there. The Sixers hand LeBron 100-point loss. It felt like we're going to talk about that. Are they back to their winning ways? They play the Pelicans tonight in New Orleans, but they are officially eliminated from the in-season tournament play. So we'll talk about it all, man. But first and foremost, how are you feeling and how was your holiday weekend?
It was great, man. It was great. Obviously got to go to the Eagles game, did a little bit of a Friendsgiving and a Thanksgiving meal. So got all the holiday family time in that we could, and got to go out and watch an Eagles W. That's all you can ask for. But probably, up there with one of the best games that I've ever been able to go to and see in person. Like you talk about a shootout. And mind you, I was there last year for Sunday Night Football against the Packers, so that was a little bit of a shootout as well, like a 40-32 game, something like that, against Aaron Rodgers. So I've seen some shootouts, but this one was really fun to watch. Obviously, the Eagles come out with the end of game W, right? The walk-off Jalen Hurts QB draw of all things, baby. The QB draw, man, to win the goddamn game. But no, I would say that was probably the second one on my list of games I've been to. I went to the Falcons game the year we won the Super Bowl in the playoffs. So I'd put that one number one. The
on the road to the Super Bowl, absolutely.
Or however that happened.
It went off his leg. He jumped.
Hands.
The Jalen Mills fourth down stop on Julio Jones.
Who's
now
in
an
the
Eagle,
end zone. Yeah, that one's number one. That's going to be hard to replace. But maybe this one moves up, if the Eagles go on to win the Super Bowl this year. And I can say I went to this game the year they won the Super Bowl this time too. So nonetheless, great game. I can't wait to get into it with you. I have had a chance to watch it back afterwards as well. So I don't just have the at the stadium view on the game anymore.
Yeah, it's definitely a little more difficult.
A lot at the stadium.
Yeah, you do. Like with all the replays and all the angles, and obviously, where I sit in that stadium is up sideline but top right corner, so angles on where the chains are and where the ball actually is. You think you got a first down by 5 yards? No, you don't. You're short by 2. It's hard to gauge at times, but nonetheless, that atmosphere had to be unbelievable, even in the rain and the wind and all, man. But let's get into this 37-34 victory on the back of second half Jalen Hurts. Scotty, I'm not lying to you when I say this was maybe one of the worst Eagles games I've watched in the first half. Yeah. Again, just another sloppy, bad play calling, bad execution. The defense can't get off the field on third downs. The same old script, but for some reason, yet again, it doesn't seem to matter. Led by this head coach, led by this quarterback, man, it never seems to matter. This dude had a 7 quarterback rating in the first half, man. A 7 QBR. He threw for a 136 QBR in the second half. He scored 5 touchdowns, 4 of which come in the second half. And again, he is the definition of calm, cool, and collect. Yeah. He is just so comfortable back there in the biggest moments when the biggest plays need to be made down the stretch late in the fourth quarter to get them in the field goal range. The throw to Zacchaeus on 3rd and 15 to take the lead.
Yeah.
The whole drive in overtime, man. You get a field goal, there's only 5 minutes left. Are we really playing for a field goal here to tie Buffalo after we fought back like this? No, and he's not satisfied with that either. He goes down. Obviously, you talked about the QB draw. We're going to talk a lot about Brian Johnson's play calling. But it starts with the quarterback, man. And I can't say enough about him. I tweeted it in the first half. Like, Jalen needs to be so much better. And I don't know what the cause is. Obviously, you're missing Lane. You don't have Goddard. Brian Johnson's play calling is so mind-boggling at times. DeAndre Swift doesn't get the ball. It's a combination of everything, I guess. But I don't know how the dude can go from a 7 quarterback rating to the legitimate MVP showing that he put out there in the second half. And it's what makes him in this team special, man. I mean, back-to-back 10-point deficits at halftime versus Patrick Mahomes on the road and Josh Allen when it seems like he can't miss in bad weather. And he finds a way to get the job done, Scotty. What was it like in person to watch this dude?
Yeah, it was kind of exactly how you described it, man. The first half was dismal, to say the least. There was a lot of the Eagles once again shooting themselves in the foot with the turnovers, the bad play calling, just not running the football, right? Once again, like, just not keeping it simple is what I would like to say. Like, when you have Lane Johnson go out and he's like a game time decision that he's not going to make it in this game, right? That was Sunday morning. We find out that Lane Johnson's not playing. You know what I mean? And so when you have like a wrench thrown into the situation like that, that's when you got to dumb it down a little bit and just use use your power, use your dominating force, which is your offensive line, and run the football, man. Put the quarterback behind the center and hand it off to DeAndre Swift. And sometimes I just think the Eagles overthink that. Then you see them gravitate back towards it in the second half for some reason. And mind you, a lot of it is Jalen's decision making, like that Gainwell fumble, right?
Right.
Whether you put that, I believe it actually goes on Hurts, but when he's trying to hand
it was
the ball
Jalen's
to
fault.
Gainwell,
It was Jalen's fault.
Hurts, you got to be more decisive than that in that moment, right? And that's part of the issue all around, I believe, is in the first parts of these games, they're just not being decisive. And so what it makes me think, man, is that they have to change the approach to start games. Like, I get it. You want to come out, you want to throw the football. You see the Bills secondary is, tore apart. They have injuries across the board, and you think you can expose them. Similar to the Jets game, right, where Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed aren't playing in that game. Top 2 corners out, top 3 corners out. We need to go out and just air these guys out and open this game up. I think it's the opposite. I think you have to come out, you have to keep it simple, run the football, use some play action to get Jalen Hurts acclimated in the game. Excuse me. Let me get my vocab right here. Let Jalen Hurts get acclimated into the game, and then we can start taking those shots that we saw in the second half where he's on the money, right? Like the shot to Zacchaeus, we saw that. It's one of the best throws in his career in reality, right? One of the best plays in his career. And you see that in the second half once he's acclimated, once you settle into the fact that it's raining, it's downpour at the stadium. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of it is the approach. And on the other side of that is you got to give a hand clap to Brian Johnson on the other side when it looks, 360 degrees better, like in the other direction. But it is mind-boggling, to say the least, that we keep finding ourselves in these holes. Yeah. And then Jalen Hurts has to play perfect money ball to get the Eagles back into this game and win.
And listen, some of which is on Jalen Hurts. Like that fumble to Gainwell when your defense, when Jalen Carter blocks the field goal at the end of the half, that's inexcusable. And I don't know like what your angle was at the stadium. Scotty, man, people were giving excuses on social media, and I'm just like, the interception's his fault. I don't want to hear that it's a deflected ball. He stared down a defender 2 feet in front of his face, threw it off his arm. Even if it gets past the defender, I believe he was targeting Jack Stoll I believe it was Jack Stoll. Scotty, there was a safety that was going to take his head off 2 yards in front of the tight end, even if he makes the completion. Yeah. So the decision all around to make that throw was bad. It results in a turnover, and then all I see is tweets, man, Jalen's luck with bad. No, this wasn't a deflection like that, man. This was a poor decision early on in the game.
You're going to talk about luck, man. Like, we can't sit here and act like, oh, Jalen so unlucky with the tip passes, but then clown Dak Prescott, last season, and then clown Josh Allen this season. Like, we
keep the
can't sit
line
here and do
straight.
that back and forth. Like, it's got to
Keep the
be
line
one or
straight.
the
But
other.
this is the part you mentioned it in the second half. Brett with the dude.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable to watch. Again,
I
can't stress it enough. Like, it's unbelievable to watch. And when I tweet out, like, he needs to be so much better in the first half, it makes you feel a little dumb when he comes back in the second half and looks the way he looks. But, like, he went, like, it's going from one extreme to the other. And I think to Phil's point here, man, it's what you were talking about. Desai makes these halftime adjustments, rightfully so, and he gets praised for it. Brian Johnson kind of does the same thing. Now, there does seem to be a little more hiccups still in the second half with Brian Johnson, where he'll start off the second half. I believe we went 3 and out to start the second half.
Yeah.
Like, with just
started out with a sack, I believe.
Yeah, like just or a run, sack, run, or something like that. It was really poor, right?
Started behind
and then you're still scratching your head. The crowd continues to boo, and then all of a sudden it flips a switch, and that's where, like, I got me myself, and I'm going to say this for every other Eagles fan out there. We kind of have to relax throughout the course of a game when execution doesn't occur the way a play call needs it to, because we sit here and we want to bitch at the QB draws. And I'm not saying that he should run it as much as he does. I'm not saying he should run it on his own 15-yard line on a 3rd and 8. Like, I'm not saying any of that. But when you show it a few times throughout the game, even if it's not working, you get a result like you did against the Chiefs last Monday night. You get a result like the game winner, because I don't know how to explain it. Like, when you show something, you find a way to exploit it.
You know what my problem was with it? And, part of it was me just being impatient about it, right? About the QB draws and the lack of versatility in the play call. And it is still a thing, right? Like, it's not just completely gone because Jalen Hurts wins the game with the QB draw. But when you see the way that QB draw plays out in real time at the end of that game, and you watch it back over and over because it's the game-winning touchdown, you see Hurts' true rushing ability, like for him to turn that corner and get in between two guys trying to hit him in the legs, and then he takes it for, 15, 11 yards, however long that was. You start to see why it is important to give Hurts that opportunity to make a play like that, right? And that's exactly like what you just said, where you run it in the first half. Maybe it's not in the red zone where you run it, and you just run it to keep the defense honest and keep it on their minds. And then at the end of the game, they fall asleep, and you lure them right back into that trap.
It's crazy to hear what Mailata and them said, man, about the look that the Chiefs gave them. It's the same look like when Spagnuolo brought all-out pressure and Jalen cut it up the middle for the game-tying touchdown 2 weeks ago. They got the same all-out pressure in overtime. And that overtime drive, the fourth quarter drive, to set up a Jake Elliott field goal, like, man, so much happened in this game that, like, you get lost in, like, just the fact that the Eagles came back and won. But, like, dude, Jalen Carter blocked the field goal. Jake Elliott hit a 60-yarder in a downpour to force overtime. The walk-off, like, just so much happens. And it's just, there's so much conversation with Jalen Hurts and other quarterbacks around the league and what it looks like, right? And you know who I'm talking about. But, like, he just continues to make the plays when needed most. I believe if Josh Allen just makes the correct read, makes a throw in overtime, the game's over. Jalen Hurts doesn't touch the ball. Yeah. And where I was standing in my basement, because I was literally standing up, like, holding a pillow.
Josh Allen could have won this game.
From the angle I had, all I saw was Gabe Davis wide open and the ball being lobbed, and I'm like, oh my God, it's over.
Yeah.
And I didn't have, like, the angle of and then he cuts it left. Josh throws it on the inside route, and it's like, wow, that's 3rd down.
In real time, it's a panic, man. Like, you just take a deep breath at the stadium because Gabe Davis is wide open.
Right. But that's my point. That's the difference between Jalen and some of these other guys, man. Game on the line. Josh Allen was unbelievable on Sunday. It was my biggest fear. You and I were talking about it. My biggest fear was that dude tearing up my defense with how much I get on him for turnovers and not playing winning football. He tears us up in a monsoon windstorm. It feels like he doesn't throw an incompletion. Big run after big run. But when it mattered, Scotty, when it mattered, the James Bradbury interception, a sack on 3rd down to take them farther into field goal range.
Yeah.
a missed throw in the end zone, and when it mattered, one QB made all the plays and one missed. Exactly.
Let
Josh
me ask you
didn't.
this.
Jalen did.
Let me ask you this about this game and about the Chiefs game as well. It's like you can look at it from two different perspectives. So you come into this game, you're down 10 to the Bills, right? You go into the Chiefs game, you're down 10 to the Chiefs, and you do turn the ball over, right? The interceptions or the fumbles, whatever's happening in that said game. And so you find yourself down 10, they come back and win the game. You can leave those two games saying, if you make those mistakes in the future, they could come back to bite you against a great team, right?
But
are these not the great teams?
Right. Are these not the two favorites in
like,
the AFC before the season?
Are the Eagles just not? Are they just that good that they can afford a mistake or two mixed in there and still come out and win the football game down the best tackle? Arguably the best right tackle in the game in Lane Johnson, and down a linebacker late in the game where you're using Christian Ellis to plug in and fill, right? Like, is this how good the Eagles are? Or does it come back to bite you against a team like San Fran, for example, who's next on this juggernaut list of opponents, right?
On this gauntlet. I keep waiting.
Which side do you lie on when it comes to that? Like, is it just that the Eagles are that good that they can just keep winning like this? They just find ways to win?
Yeah.
Or is it that, the mistakes are going to catch up to them eventually? Like, which side do you lie
in
on?
In the past, man, against a different schedule, if this was last year, if they were playing this style of football against last year's schedule, I would say yes. Yeah. It's going to catch up to you. It's going to butt you. You're getting away with this against average quarterback play and at mediocre teams. Yeah. When you play the Chiefs, when you play the Bills, when you play Dallas, it's going to bite you. But you're doing it against this schedule. And I think these two games, while similar, while you struggled in the first half, only scoring 7 points in both, you're trailing by 10 points in both at halftime, they were also two different styles of games. The Chiefs stayed low scoring. Yeah. The Bills was a 37-34 win. So still, again, this team showed another way they can beat you. You want to get into a dogfight? You want 21-17? I can give you 21-17. You want 40? I can give you 40 in overtime.
Very true.
That's a little bit different makeup that these two games had in comparison. But absolutely, I think you and I have talked about it before. Like, I think with the Sixers, with the when you're playing these lesser talented teams for a little bit and you're finding ways to win, but you're still making the same mistakes. You're still turning the ball over. You're still having late game penalties. Normally, I would be like 1,000% when you play the Kansas City Chiefs, you are going to get your teeth kicked in if you make these mistakes. It's not happening. And you mentioned the gauntlet. I keep waiting for the gauntlet to catch up to them, man. And maybe we'll talk about it later on in the week. Yeah. We'll talk about it on pregame. Maybe it happens this Sunday. But the funniest part is, man, and the San Fran fans and the Dallas fans and the national media, they're going to have a field day if the Eagles lose this game. But what do you expect? Oh my God, they lost to
Bills and the Cowboys in a row.
Right.
Like, and all that we'll be talking about is
I'm not trying to set up an early excuse if they were to lose this game. I'm just saying, man, like with this schedule, people were saying 11-5. They're 10-1.
And the other side of the convo there, the other side of the question that I asked you is that maybe the other teams are the teams that can't afford to have just one mistake against the Eagles, right? Mahomes comes out, throws an interception. Travis Kelce fumbles the football in the red zone. You lose the game, right? Josh Allen comes out, throws an interception in the fourth, misses a few throws down the line, down the stretch of the game. They lose that game. So maybe the Eagles are that juggernaut. Maybe they are the gauntlet, as we've been talking about the last few weeks. And you look back against this stretch, right? One positive that I will give, along with the adjustments at halftime for Brian Johnson, Eagles 10 out of 10 in the red zone versus Kansas City, Dallas, and Buffalo the last not 3 weeks, but the last 3 games. 10 out of 10, once they get in the red zone, they are scoring that football. And you talk about this the slow start to the season for the offense. They were like 27th in the league in red zone, finishing in the red zone to start the season, and they've now worked themselves into the top 10 just with the last 3 weeks of football they've played. So while it looks bad at times, they're doing some really good stuff as far as metrics and
it's
and
almost like
efficiency
flipped. Earlier in the year, they had all the success in the world between the 20s. They could move the ball up and down on you, right? But they couldn't finish when it mattered inside the 20,
a lot of
inside the
field goals to
25.
start the season.
Now it's like when it looks ugly, it's because they can't pick up a first down on a drive.
Yeah.
They're stalling at midfield.
Yeah.
Whereas now, once they do get you down there, good night, basically. And it is mind-boggling. I will say, I did see a comment up earlier. I believe it was by Brett. But you want to know how you eliminate these slow starts, these sluggish offensive starts, Scotty?
Yeah.
You give number 0 the ball early in the game.
Yeah. I was just going to
And I think that is the most frustrating part. I tweeted this out after the game or late in the game against Buffalo. Like, I'm sure there are some fans that purely think Brian Johnson stinks, like cannot do this, should be fired. If I could bring in Frank Reich today and replace him, I would do so. But where I get frustrated is I know it's in there. I see it. Those drives, you see it. The dude can call plays in this league. But the frustrating part is the consistency. Why, for the last 3-4 weeks, are we having these issues in the first half where DeAndre Swift has 2 touches at halftime? Yeah. But holy shit, Scotty, you give him the ball in the second half, and you're inside the opponent's 30 in 3 plays.
What is the reasoning? Like, what? Why?
I don't know.
To preserve DeAndre Swift?
Don't. Like, man, Boston Scott's on the field in the first half more than DeAndre Swift, it felt like. I know he probably wasn't, but it felt like it. Why? I don't get that part of it, man. Listen, execution matters more so than anything, and players can make coaches look worse and make play calls look worse than they are when, a gap's not being created like it's supposed to, where a receiver doesn't, get out on the edge for a block like he's supposed to. But to me, one of my favorite quotes that I've heard from broadcasts over the last years and some former players that call games now is sometimes it's about players more than plays, Scotty.
Yeah.
You just need to get your playmakers the ball more so than worrying about what plays to call.
Yeah.
You get DeAndre Swift the ball. You find ways to get AJ and Devontae the ball.
Yeah.
You don't worry about the play calls to slip, Julio Jones a screen in the set. Like, you don't worry about that. You just get them the ball and let them take you home. What do you do with Jalen? What is that with a quarterback draw with the game on line?
Hands, man.
Giving your playmaker the ball, right? And you saw
I'm with you,
overtime, bro. Swift was a gigantic part of that game-winning drive.
It's weird. He needs to be looked at in the light of an AJ Brown, a Devontae Smith, a Dallas Goedert in this
terms
offense.
Of creating with the ball in his hands.
Just getting the ball in his hands and seeing what he can do with it, man. Once again, I don't know if it's like overthinking. I don't know exactly what it is, but think back to, when you had Brian Westbrook on this Philadelphia Eagles team, man, the types of screens we would see from Andy Reid to get the ball into his hands. Darren Sproles, you just said it, man. Yeah, that's another guy that I'm thinking about there where you can use these type of running backs more effectively in the passing game itself, right? If you don't want to hand the ball off to DeAndre Swift in the backfield each and every time that you come out on the field, that's fine. Get the ball in his hands in other methods. And that's what's blowing me is that sometimes we just don't see this until the third or fourth quarter. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, we do have a screen drawn up for Swift that we could use at any time in this game. We do have, different RPO options that we can run with Swift that can get the ball
against Kansas City. Right, that little out and in cut. I don't even know if it's a screen. It might just be more of a route, but look what happened in the second half against the Chiefs when you ran that play twice.
Like, do they just save it for the end of games? And that's why it looks so great at the end?
To TR's point, with his injury concern, they don't want they don't want to run him down, and obviously you want him healthy for the playoffs, and I get that, but we're having a very different conversation if Jalen Hurts doesn't come back the last 2 games.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at that, if you lose the last 2 games because you're not getting him the ball and you're starting slow because you're doing so and you can't come back, well, now you're not 10-1, you're 8-3. And are we worried about keeping DeAndre Swift fresh still? Like, that's my question.
Right.
Like, I'm not saying you're lucky. Like, they went out and won the games, but you're playing very close to the fire by.
And so then my only counter to like them not wanting to run DeAndre Swift down, understandable. He has a lengthy injury history throughout his career. It's understandable for sure. Then those carries can't go just directly to Jalen Hurts' legs and have him get worn down throughout the season, right? Like,
with the knee brace on.
Why's your quarterback matching your RB1 in carries? Like, I get it. Hurts is a dynamic runner, and he won the game. I'm not going to sit here and complain about Hurts running the football. But if Swift isn't getting the carries, then another running back should be getting the carries. As much as I don't want to see Kenneth Gainwell in the field,
and some of Jalen, we'd have to go back and count how many are off script, how many are scrambles.
How many does he just keep?
I get that, but and one or two's a tush push, so you get that. But they probably called 5 or 6 design quarterback draws in this game.
Yeah.
Like, when I say show it to keep it,
and I'm not saying that they can't do that. Like, I'm just saying if your reasoning for not running Swift is that you don't want to wear him down for the
you don't give the QB with the knee brace more carries.
Exactly. You don't give your QB, you don't run him into the ground as well and get him all beat up after he's been dealing with an actual knee injury.
And he's had like season-ending stuff every year as a starter so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's not act like Jalen's body is just crystal clear and injury proof. Like he's dealt with injuries every year he's been a starter. Missed time last year, wasn't 100% healthy heading into the postseason. Like, now wearing the knee brace all year, you could tell he's not 100% when he runs the ball. I don't think 14 carries for him is necessary if you're trying to keep DeAndre Swift healthy and ready to go down the stretch either. But man, this game, before we move on in a couple minutes, it wasn't the Super Bowl, obviously, but like, remember the Super Bowl, it stung even worse, the loss, because it was such a great all-time football game too.
Yeah. And we were on the losing end.
Such a fun football game. And to come out on the right side of it, on the winning side of it, felt just 10 times better, right? Like, obviously, if they lose, you're down in the dump right now, and that kind of an overtime loss. But like, the fact that they were able to go out and win it like a classic, right, was awesome. In the Kelly Greens, there's rainfall the whole time. Jim Nantz, I know you were at the game. Thankfully, you didn't get to hear Tony, which is a shame. Normally, I like Tony Romo. I like Tony on calls most of the time, bro. He was unbelievably bad.
Between that game, because I did get to hear some clips of him talking, and it's unbearable at points. That game, and then if you watched on Thanksgiving, the Cowboys versus the Commanders, and him every other play the Cowboys run against a 3-7 team or whatever the Commanders are, the Cowboys are Super Bowl. They can be Super Bowl champions. And like, you're just saying that throughout the broadcast, but you don't do that for other teams that are contenders in the NFL that have good records. So just a little bit of bias. It was
really bad. Like, on calls, if they called a penalty on the Eagles, it was a great call. If they missed the call on the Eagles, he talked about it for 3 plays. Like, there was a point in this game where they had to settle for the Bills had to kick a field goal. I believe it was the one Carter blocked. There was a no call or a missed call on the Eagles that he didn't like. The horse collar on Reddit that they didn't call.
Yeah.
He talked about that for 5 straight plays and how it affected the rest of the drive. Tony, if it would have been reversed, if Jalen Hurts or DeAndre Swift got quote unquote horse collared, are you talking about it if it affected the drive?
He wouldn't have said anything, man.
No. Nance was great. Nance's big play calls are fantastic. The game winner, the Elliott field goal, fantastic. But that dude, who I normally don't mind to hear, was atrocious to listen to.
I did want to ask you regarding the defense and like your look from it as you're watching the game on the television live. What did you think of the Eagles pass rush in this game?
It was weak, man. I thought he
Like, is it
continued.
just Josh Allen effect, or is that like a weak
No,
effort by the Eagles
I
pass
didn't
rush?
think I'll put it this way. Josh Allen had a bunch of big runs and missed tackles and third down pickups, and
Yeah,
I can't really count outside of maybe a play or two where it was because the Eagles forced him out of the pocket.
yeah,
I think when Josh Allen ran for third downs, it was the fact that the Eagles rushed 3 or 4 and they were in man, and he saw
yeah,
that and he took it up the middle for a big first down one time. He rolled out, Reddick got free, he made Reddick miss. Like, it wasn't like the Eagles squeezed him out of the pocket. And
yeah.
when he was just throwing the ball, there was almost no pressure. Now, again, a timely sack late down like they made
BG,
plays at
yeah,
times. But the pass rush, no. And again, I mean, it's pouring rain. I don't think neither pass rush was too great.
yeah,
But the Eagles pass rush wasn't great. Josh Allen was the version of Josh Allen we expect to see on a
yeah,
weekly basis, not the
yeah.
one that I criticize on Turf Talk, right? So
And I think he
that
is
was
a tough
frustrating to see.
matchup. I think he's just a tough matchup for the. He's
Yeah.
a tough matchup for almost any team. But I think when you look at the Eagles and their linebacker deficiencies, right? I think he's a tough matchup for the Philadelphia Eagles whenever you're going up against a quarterback that can run like him, has the size. Um, yeah, I agree with Marshawn Lynch's comments. It's really hard to distinguish between being lucky and lack of execution from the other team because there's several points throughout this game that are clear as day where if the Bills just execute a little bit better or a little bit more efficiently, they win this game, man. They had control of the game. They had a 10-point lead at halftime. So, like, if you just execute down the stretch, you win that game. If Josh Allen doesn't throw an interception in the fourth quarter, they might win that game. Like, there's a lot of different things that could have happened for them. But the Eagles just keep making plays in big moments. Like you said, the sack down the stretch was a game changer from BG. Got in there, and plays come from any one of these guys. I think that's a
Yeah.
good thing. But I am looking forward to seeing that pass rush get it going at some point and have, a 4 or 5 sack game. Like
Who
we've
might
kind of been
that be
waiting for
against?
that for a while. Yeah, you know where I'm going with that. Against this 49ers team that's coming into town, man. I'm thoroughly excited. How do you feel? And we don't have to get into the actual logistics of the game or anything like that, but versus losing this game in overtime to the Bills and coming out and wanting that revenge game after a tough loss versus winning this big game with a walk-off Jalen Hurts touchdown, now going into a rematch of the
Yeah.
NFC Championship game. Do you feel that that's an advantage for the Eagles, like mindset-wise, or do you think it would have been more of an advantage for them to lose this game and like kind of look forward into this game to bouncing back? Like, does it matter for this team?
It doesn't, and it shouldn't. I would just from like from a on paper perspective, like when you're
Yeah,
predicting wins and losses, and if you had them going on this streak, what are the odds they continue to win? You know what I
yeah,
mean? So from that perspective, it's like if they would have dropped this one against the Bills, or if they would have dropped it to Kansas City 2 weeks ago, I would probably be like, I would be a little bit more confident in the fact that they're going to beat the San Francisco 49ers. But it won't matter with this team,
yeah,
man. And I know we give all the praise in the world to QB1, and deservingly so, but it starts with Nick. And
yeah,
when you hear the players talk about him and how they are just never out of the game and they're never down, and it's amazing to see what he's done culturally wise in that
yeah,
locker room, the way that these vets are bought into to him as well. So no, and another thing I'll say is I know people find it corny. Outside people hate him. Some Eagles fans and media members find it corny. I love like Nick's personality.
yeah,
Now, don't get me wrong. Was I, like when this dude was talking about growing flowers and everything, I was like, oh dear God. But like, I love his fiery,
yeah,
let's get after it personality. And let me ask you this. And now, obviously, one game was a Super Bowl, but you saw his reaction after the Super Bowl rematch, right? What do you think his message is to that locker room this Sunday? With all that noise that other team's been talking, team that's going to be like, the Chiefs are the pinnacle. The Chiefs are, if we can get them in the Super Bowl, sure.
Yeah.
The Niners are the roadblock to the Super Bowl. They're a step closer towards the Eagles. Yeah. So, like, I would assume this team is going to be ready to play for their head coach.
That's the thing, because if it was the Seattle Seahawks this week coming into Philly, or we were going to Seattle right after a big win in overtime against Buffalo, after a big comeback win against the Chiefs, right? That would be a lot. But it's the 49ers. Like, if you can't get up for this 49ers game, then I don't know what you can get up for. And to that point, I think Sirianni, I think that kind of he does lead this team in the sense of they don't talk before the game is played. They talk after. Sirianni doesn't celebrate before the game is played. He celebrates after. He doesn't operate off of what ifs. They go out, they perform the action on the field, and then they can talk after about what happened and what took place. And I simply think that is the difference between these two teams going into Sunday. It's funny, man. Debo, everybody just keeps bringing him on every show they can to just keep, trying to dig stuff out of him. And he just keeps on dying on this hill with James Bradberry, man. I don't get it. I don't understand, out of all the people that you could pick from the Eagles team, you pick James Bradberry to, like, pick on and, like, talk shit about him. Like, the guy doesn't say anything. James Bradberry doesn't say anything. He doesn't do demonstrative.
Literally had one of the most bullshit calls called on him in the biggest moment of the entire NFL season, and went in the locker room to reporters and just owned up to it. Now, I'm sure that was just media speak. Just that's on me. I don't know if he necessarily believed that it was a correct call, but because nobody should have.
But
to go after him, they're just a bunch of clowns, man. Like, someone brought up the clip on Twitter the other day of the end of the game when the 49ers were frustrated and Trent Williams got in that scrum. Like, he walked by Linval Joseph and Milton Williams to go throw Kayvon Wallace on the ground.
That is the definition of a pussy. Like, I mean, I don't know.
I was just gonna say, like, it's like Trent Williams would eat me, but, like, you're a bitch. Not saying
go do it to Lane
Johnson. You walk by the D tackles to get to the safety to throw him on the ground from behind.
Start something with Fletcher Cox.
Right. Good one, bud. Good one. Like, just
do that shit with Jalen Carter.
I mean, right. You got Javon Hargrave, who leaves in the offseason and says the Niners are a better team. And I just, again, we're not going to get too much into it. We're going to talk about it Friday and Sunday, of course, but I can't wait to play this quarterback, man. I can't, with all those weapons fully healthy, maybe they come out and maybe Brock Purdy gets to us. I don't know. I'm not, I can't see the future.
No excuses for that 49ers team.
All of what we've heard, if Brock Purdy played in the NFC Championship game in the link. Oh, okay. How about when their defense gave up a 37 spot in the NFC Championship? Did Brock Purdy play defense too? Just a little confused. But we're gonna talk about it.
But Jordan Davis, motherfucker. Like, go ahead. Right. Do it to Jordan Davis. Trent Williams, do it to Jordan Davis. Like, and then I'll be impressed. But
I just, Hassan on him is going to be a crazy matchup because Hassan Reddick, out of everybody on the Eagles, has probably been the most outspoken about this back and forth and what the Niners have had to say.
I did see AJ's tweet. I saw AJ's tweet.
They're boys. Him and Debo are boys. So, like, Debo commented back to him and he commented back to Debo, like, all love or whatever. But they're actually friends, I believe. But, like, Hassan, I don't think Hassan has, like, he doesn't seem like a dude that has a ton of friendships around the league.
He doesn't. He's a Philly guy through and through, man. I do agree there. How do you feel about Shaq Leonard coming into town and obviously Fletcher got banged up in that one. Milton Williams missed that one with a concussion. Do you go out and see what's up with Ndamukong Suh, man? Like, just reinforcements, depth to add to the team.
Can you hear me?
You were just on mute, but you're off now.
I got a notification that my mic was on. But all right, just let me know if something's wrong.
No, you're good right now.
Ask me that question again.
I was just asking, like, Ndamukong Suh with the Fletcher Cox.
Oh, Shaq Leonard. Right.
Williams, Shaq Leonard obviously coming in today after a Cowboys visit.
Yeah, I would love to get Shaq Leonard in here, especially with Zach Cunningham going down. Now, I understand that he is not all Pro Bowl, top 3 linebacker in the game anymore.
Right.
Shaq Leonard, he has some injury. Like, I get that. I think he can still be a very, very good, solid linebacker, especially if surrounded by the talent the Eagles have on defense. Yeah, and I get it. At times they don't look like it. I get it. At times the secondary can get beat up. We don't have whatever. There's playmakers and Pro Bowlers all across the board on this defense. You plug him inside of this unit compared to what was going on in Indianapolis, I think you get a little bit of a different version from Shaq Leonard. Again, I know he's not what he was, but let's not act like he wouldn't be better than a healthy Zach Cunningham.
Yeah.
Let's not act like he's not better than what Nakobe Dean would be giving you, or Ellis, or Nicholas Morrow, right? Like he would step in and probably be the best linebacker on the Eagles roster, even with him not being his former self.
Yeah, because it's not like this is a guy that hasn't been playing all season. He was playing. He just wasn't playing as that elite linebacker for the Colts because they have a little bit more depth than what the Eagles do there at that position. So it's like it's not like he's coming off the street like an Ndamukong Suh would be coming off the street. Like, he's been in a training camp. He's been with an organization for most of this season. So still should come in pretty good shape. And, I would just try to get it done today, man. Don't let him leave the building.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, especially with who else he visits with, right? Like he
exactly.
visited with one other team. We're going to see them in 2 weeks. They could be a potential team you see down the road. Let's not let him walk out of our building and back into theirs, and then bother us later on down the road or anything.
Yeah,
so
I completely agree, man.
Yeah, just get it done. Obviously, the relationship with Nick and some of the other guys that are already here should and could help. I saw somebody like pulled up an old tweet of his from like 2012 or whatever, or maybe earlier, that was like fuck the Cowboys, or the Cowboys suck or something. So the Eagles fans were like quote tweeting and retweeting that about coming home. I
mean, he's all smiles in the video, or the clip from John Clark of him and Dom walking in the airport, security Dom for the Eagles. So he's all smiles. You got Nick Sirianni in building. You guys saw the story about Smitty working out with him in the offseason, I'm sure. So a lot of connections here. And there's a clear opening, right? I don't know if that's the case for the Cowboys. I know they lost Leighton Vander Esch for the season, I believe. There's a clear opening for
1,000%
playing time
because Christian Ellis cannot play on a Super Bowl contending defense.
No, you can't have a hole like that in your defense, man. I mean, Cunningham and Morrow, that's like, mid enough for your linebacking core. That's with all due respect to them. They've been actually pretty good this season, but you don't need to, allow another hole in the defense there if you can bring in a guy like this.
Great question here, though, man. Regardless of what he does, even if he signs today or tomorrow, he will not be playing Sunday, obviously. So who steps up? I mean, my only answer I can give you is Morrow, because I've seen him make plays this season. Tampa Bay obviously gets in the end zone and forces a safety. He had didn't he have a 3-sack day or
he had a 3-sack game? I think that was against.
I've seen him make plays. Now, I also watched Nicholas Morrow get lined up on the outside on James Cook and almost allow a walk-in touchdown. So he's not the quickest, most agile, most explosive linebacker but no one's going to be good in coverage in this linebacker.
Yeah.
So who can affect the game the most? It would be him in terms of stopping the run. Obviously that's going to be critical against San Francisco. But no, I would not advise Sean Desai to, if they swing McCaffrey out of the backfield out into the slot or outside, to allow Nicholas Morrow to be his assignment.
That's gonna be the tough part against the 49ers, is figuring that out, because Morrow will be in. Who's going to be that other linebacker? Do you go with 3 safeties rather and just 1 linebacker? Do you go with more of a coverage look? Because once you do that, then they'll run the football at you with Debo and CMC, right? So you got to kind of work around. But that's all part of the game, obviously. Yeah. We'll see how it plays out if they're able to bring in some depth there. I think they're supposed to get Justin Evans back, so that's another safety. Sidney Brown can come up and lay some wood. I mean, you got to get creative, is what I would say.
You could do 3 safety looks, obviously, when you have a guy like Kevin Byard who can get down in the box and stop the run and hit and everything. So you could do different things. I don't know if Desai's going to. Does it seem like he's that kind of guy that's going to change his whole plan?
Christian Ellis did play a lot in that second half.
Yeah, but he might be the guy. Could be out of just necessity. We'll see, man. But last thing. We talk a lot about the Niners players and fan base being clowns. We talk about the Cowboys players and fans being clowns, and so on and so forth. The Bills, man, the Bills players getting into it with some Eagles fans in the stands, just straight lying. Like it's all caught on video. Like the evidence is out there. There's facts. There's proof. Just straight lying about threats being made on their life and everything like that.
Odd, man.
Coming over to the stands multiple times, screaming at a security guard's face to do your job, putting your hands on a fan in the stand who didn't touch you, didn't throw anything at you, wasn't talking too crazy. I don't know everything that he said, but regardless, you can't do that. So a fine or suspension is most likely coming. But then someone made a thread. I believe, was it Jalen Phillips was the player? Is that
Jordan Phillips?
Jordan Phillips. Okay.
Yeah.
Someone made a thread of all of his highlights from this past Sunday. And if this dude ain't one of the dirtiest mother effers I've seen play the Eagles, I don't know what. So not only are you getting into it with the fans, you put your hands on a civilian basically, but there's 7 different plays where he does something dirty.
Yeah.
You had the Landon Dickerson, encroachment on the tush push where he just drives him. Or you had the Cam Jurgens, after the penalty, dumping him over the pile and wrestling with him on the ground. He took a shot at Jalen's head when he was already being tackled one time and almost left his feet for helmet to helmet. He took a shot at Jalen's knee when he was being blocked. Like, dude, there were 7 plays and it wasn't like, that's ticky-tack. No. Like 7 plays where he was doing something excessive after a whistle, whatever, at a head or lower body area, and then pushes a fin. You are an absolute clown. And I loved your tweet, bro. I absolutely loved your tweet of he's yelling at this security.
How ironic, man.
Hey, brother, your defense allowed 37.
Like, do your fucking job.
Yeah. How about you focus on doing your job and stop getting into it with the fans behind you?
That was ridiculous. And then I saw, shout out to Mark Henry. I saw he tweeted something about DeMar Hamlin was apparently running his mouth to the fans, saying disrespectful things. So it's like very weird energy from that Bills unit. Like, honestly, I respected the Bills fans. I've respected, kind of.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Respected their organization in a sense because of the fans, but that was such a weak move. And then to come out and lie about it after the game. If he's not lying, then shame on the Eagles fans that threatened his family's life. But TR and Brett said, these fans paid too much money, these tickets. I paid fucking $400 to be up in the 200 section. Yeah. So I know these fans paid $1,000 to be down where they were for this game. Probably more, quite honestly. And to think that he's going to go and risk all of that with security and cops standing right there.
Not to mention there's 100 phones out while he's doing it. So
exactly, man. It was just, it was childish. And it's like, at the end of the day, if I saw Eagles players at an opposing stadium getting so worked up by fans, I would look at them kind of
your head's just so far out of the game that you're focused on what's going on.
Like you're sitting on the bench after a bad play for your team, like looking back at the crowd. Like that's not what you should be doing. You should be looking at how you can improve on the next drive once you get out there on the field again. And instead they're over, yelling at security and security. Are you going to fight security and tell them to do their job?
That security guard wasn't having it either.
Yeah, he's not even intimidated by you, bro.
No, he didn't give it. It's not like he turned around. He's like, guys, can we tone it down? He just stared at him like, bro, you wouldn't get the fuck out of my face.
Why don't you go back and talk to your coaches, man?
For real. But
that's one thing, like TR said, that you would never see an Eagles player act like that. And if you did, they wouldn't be part of the team going forward. That would be what it comes down to. And that's one thing we could commend the Eagles for, man. Not only that, like off the field stuff and how professional they keep things for the most part, but also on the field, man. You mentioned all the dirty plays by Jordan Phillips that are clearly dirty plays.
Yeah.
You saw the Cowboys game where they injured Goddard. That was very
right.
People can argue. Tackle. They can argue all they want. You laid all your weight on his arm when he was already going out of bounds.
Yeah.
That's an intentional injury.
Yeah.
We saw it with the Chiefs, even guys going into Jalen's knee and trying to bring him down. So
what did you think? A quote unquote dirty play that's outlawed to prevent injury, right? What did you think of the no call on Hassan? Because again, maybe I'm being a homer, and 1000% Hassan Reddick grabs here. But the reason a horse collar is outlawed is the yanking on the horse collar. Is someone running away, you grab inside their jersey and you're pulling down with your weight, their legs get caught under them. That's the Roy Williams penalty, right?
Yeah.
Hassan grabbed, but Hassan whipped him forward with it. He didn't pull down and yank him down. He grabbed and whipped him this way, body weight up. And it was a no call. And I think, but so many people were like Tony Romo was talked about it for 7 plays. Like, I don't know what you thought about it. If you saw the replay,
I think that's exactly why it wasn't called. Because I think at the end of the day, what Hassan Reddick did, whether it's him grabbing up at the top of the jersey and not the pads, or if he's grabbing right in the middle of the numbers of the jersey, right? Yeah. Or if Josh Allen's jersey is untucked and he grabs his jersey and swings him down, that's not a horse collar.
Right.
And so this grabbing at his jersey up here is not going to be
right. And to Brett's point, this ain't a horse collar. The front's not part of it.
It would be the back, and it would be on the pads where your body gets bent back.
Right. And
if people are just going to complain, man, it's funny. It's honestly hilarious that people think that refs are on the Eagles side of things.
Yeah.
If they are, then thank God we are owed that from previous years of Twitter.
Right, and I don't want to hear it, man. Listen,
I don't care.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing about the whole ref situation before we move on. It goes both ways. So, all right, you wanted a horse collar. I didn't think it was one. You don't get the call. Okay. How about when Josh Allen already begins to flop before contact is even made with him? He's not hit in the head area. He's pushed here.
Yeah.
He's already going like this before he's hit.
And he's too damn big to be doing that, man.
Call late in the game.
He's bigger than Hassan Reddick. Josh Allen is a bigger man than Hassan Reddick. Like, you don't get the flop around like that, dude. It's football. Yep. Like, come on, man. Thank God they didn't call it.
But my point is, like, it goes again, man. Did he flinch? Yeah. Is it a penalty by the rule? Rule of the book? Yeah. But J.C. Kelsey got called for back-to-back false starts on the final drive or on the second to last drive of the game.
Kelsey.
Like, you know what I mean? So, it's not like the Eagles just got away with murder in this game, and the Bills had 9 penalties called on them.
He did get a roughing the passer penalty.
Yeah.
He did get a call. Like, he got a roughing the passer penalty.
Right, maybe it's not the one you wanted.
Got a roughing the passer penalty in the last 2 minutes of the game. Like, these teams, man, it's complete bullshit. I mean, you look back from Cowboys, Chiefs, Bills, these last 3 games, all of these excuses that have arisen after the game concludes. All of these teams, all of these players had opportunities where they could easily win the game if they just make a play in the moment, right? It's so weird, and it's like it's only done for the Eagles as far as the goalposts moving. But now the 49ers, right, they're favorites coming into this game, even in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
But if we go out and beat the
49ers
in Philadelphia, did the refs cheat again?
I absolutely love that they're favorites. Listen, if you want to argue who the better team is, we can have that conversation. The Niners are obviously winning games again, but let's talk about something. What was everyone talking about when this gauntlet started? Can the Eagles go 3-2 over the course of whatever the case may be? So you're telling me that an Eagles team who beat San Francisco last year to walk to the Super Bowl, who are 10-1 and the current number 1 seed in the NFC by 2 games, who have just beaten the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Chiefs, and the Bills in 4 of their last 5 at home, are underdogs. Now that's fine by me, especially as a gambling man. Like that, that is fine. I'll take the plus money.
It's interesting,
but it makes me laugh, man.
Yeah, it's a joke. Well, did you see the Super Bowl odds? I've seen Fox and I've seen ESPN now.
Oh yeah, the Niners are number 1. The Eagles are 3.
Niners are number 1.
Chiefs
I saw
are 2.
ESPN. The Eagles are like 6.
Hold on,
like 4 or 5.
Just won the game? Like who just won the game in Arrowhead? Who has the better record?
In Arrowhead.
Who's the number 1 seed in their respective conference?
In Arrowhead.
But the other team is a higher Super Bowl favorite. And then I'm not begging. I'm not trying to sit here and like plead for recognition from Vegas or from national media to please let us be favorites. It's like it just makes me laugh. Like every year, dude, we're in the same conversation. Every year, Dallas Cowboys are top 3 in Super Bowl favorites. But people say, well, Vegas knows. No, Vegas doesn't know because they've done it every year for the last 20 years. And they've never done it. It's just they give these teams, I don't know, leeway.
They give these teams every benefit of doubt that you could possibly imagine, except for the Eagles. And they're the team that is 10-1 and has the best record in football. Like, they're the team that has clinched a playoff spot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but the Eagles don't get benefit of the doubt. They're lucky. They get, help by the refs. Jalen Hurts is a merchant of all the talent around him, yet the Eagles aren't that good, though, even though he's a merchant of the talent. They just go in circles.
Right, but then the correlation doesn't make sense because he's the odds-on MVP favorite. You know what I mean?
But he doesn't deserve it, but the team around him, just goes in circles, man. It's funny, but reality is about to come to this Sunday, and we'll get to find out firsthand who the better team is. So it's great how the schedule has worked out so far. As much as people were preying on the Eagles' downfall this season,
and you know what I love too, that people just seem to forget, as if like this game decides the number 1 seed. Even if the 49ers come in here and beat the Eagles this Sunday, they still need the Eagles' help to take the number 1 seed down the stretch. So, yep. This is the one, right, man? Like we still play the Cowboys in Dallas, but somehow this is the one. This is the
Dallas game. I don't know. Like for me, losing to Dallas in Dallas
after beating them
far more acceptable than losing at home to the 49ers. But I don't know. The 49ers game just holds a lot more weight to me. We've already beat the Cowboys. I mean, I think that's part of it. We've already beat them. And, the 49ers are that next team up right there. And that's why. They're a good team. We'll see how it goes. I'm excited for the matchup.
It's an hour in. An hour into the show. We got a little bit more to get into, man. And that's on hardwood with some 76ers talk. They take down LeBron and the Lakers by what, like 92? I don't even know what they won. 138-94.
The biggest loss in
back to their winning ways. They're 12-5 on the year, 7-3 at the Wells Fargo Center. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid doesn't even play the fourth quarter. Just continued dominance from the two of them. The whole starting 5. I mean, Nicholas Batum was a +30 last night. It's getting ridiculous at this point. Now I know they've had a couple bumps in the road. They have not fared well in the in-season tournament, or they did not fare well in the in-season tournament. They did not fare well in really their 2 back-to-backs, right? But with that said, man, this team has impressive wins on the year already, right? Like you have the Boston win, you're 1-1 with them on the year. You just beat, like, regardless of the Lakers' early season struggles, right? They're still above 500. It's still LeBron James and Anthony Davis coming to your house, and you absolutely knocked them out. You went to a very good Oklahoma City team on Saturday and controlled that game from start to finish and won that game. The Sixers team has very good wins early on in this year, and I just think that's my biggest difference maker, right? There's been some hiccups. There's been injuries. It's not all looked pretty all the time. But the bottom line is I think they already are putting together a stronger resume than I've seen them put together in the past, if that makes sense. Normally in the past we're ecstatic over 2 to 3 great wins in the year, right? Like if we beat Milwaukee in Milwaukee, if we beat KD's Nets before, like, oh, we beat KD and the Suns already this year, right? So it's like they have more stacked on their resume early, and you talk about that winning culture we want Nick Nurse to implement into this locker room. I think it kind of starts with this. Again, you could be disappointed that they didn't fare well in in-season tournament play, whatever the case may be, but I'm just glad we don't have to see that court anymore. We can continue to move forward. But yeah, man, 12-5 on the year, and I'm liking what I'm seeing over this weekend break from the Sixers.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it. The Lakers win was funny. The biggest loss in LeBron James' career. I believe it was 44-point victory there at home. This one, it was a mixture of, it looked like the Lakers kind of checked out for the night. A mixture of that with the Sixers going 22 for 46 from the 3-point line. In guys hitting an unreal clip, right? You see the Pat Bev 4 threes in this game. You see Marcus Morris, I believe he had 4 threes in that game. So everybody was contributing down the stretch there. The more impressive win, man, on the road against the Oklahoma City Thunder, who coming into that game were, I believe, 11-4, and at the top of the Western Conference with the Denver Nuggets. And you go into their house, they have SGA, they have Chet, who goes for 33 points, 6 rebounds in that game, 5 for 11 from the 3-point line. And Maxey and Joel Embiid, they come out and they're just better. Batum, once again in this game, 14 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 for 6 from the 3-point line. You look back, man, and you just have to wonder if this is the best team that's ever been around Joel Embiid. And I know we go through this thought process each and every year. We thought about it with James Harden and PJ Tucker added, but I look back.
That's the best team. I
look back at this team versus just that team last year, and just having Nicholas Batum in the starting lineup, whether you equate it to Batum or DeAnthony Melton,
right?
Having those guys in the starting lineup replace a guy like PJ Tucker, who gives you absolutely
complimentary basketball. Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely nothing. PJ Tucker gives the Clippers absolutely nothing. James Harden is a negative asset at this point when you look at what he's done since he got to LA. And you just have to ask yourself, as much as we were like, no, Robert Covington, Marcus Morris, and, we wanted Terrence Mann, and we wanted, this and that, right, thrown into this trade package. Now you look back and you have to ask yourself, how the hell did the Clippers trade their 2 best wing defenders in Rocco and Nicholas Batum, and you trade 2 glue guys in that sense. And now we're even seeing Marcus Morris come out and hit shots, man. So it is impressive.
We agree.
Brett, hey, look, Brett, you're not wrong about Batum making a difference, but I'll tell you what else makes a difference. Joel Embiid not having his worst game of the season in that game. So either or, we can give a little bit of credit around the room.
First of all, Joel Embiid's numbers over his last
12 nuts games right now
is the most ridiculous thing.
He's going nuts.
It's just there is that 20-pointer in the middle of it that is
in the middle. That was the one game.
That's all we said. Please don't do it that night anymore. Yeah. But yeah, listen, this team, you mentioned Batum in the starting lineup. The way that DeAnthony Melton has come along after the first 5 or 6 games, has helped in this starting lineup. But man, they, this is the deepest team he's had around him by far, Scotty. And
Yeah.
we like you're going back to last year and the year before that when Harden's acquired, and you can even go back to 2018 with Jimmy, right? Jimmy and the Tobias trade, and that starting lineup with JJ, of course, is maybe the best starting lineup, probably the best starting lineup this team had. It was probably the best starting lineup in the association that year. But what was still wrong with it? With that roster, they had nobody else.
Yeah.
Nobody else. This year is different, man. I texted it to you over the weekend. And by the way, Nicholas Batum and Embiid's 2-man game, with the way that Batum's able to get him the ball in the post, the way that they're able to run a lesser version, a slower version, so to speak, of a 2-man game has been very impressive already together. Batum, them together defensively has been fun. But I text you over the weekend, like, you're getting Kelly back soon. We already know the depth, but we've had guys that have gotten playing time that were like, man, they can't play. Now, all of a sudden, Marcus Morris looks like he's got it back.
Yeah.
Marcus Morris gives you great minutes when Nick Nurse decides to start him against the Timberwolves, but they lose that game. He comes out against Oklahoma City. He comes out against the Lakers, and he's hitting threes and he's hitting mid-range shots. He doesn't look so much like a liability on the defensive end. There's a player too where it's like he gave a double team when he shouldn't have gave help, and there was a cut and he gave up a dunk. Like, yeah, all right, but he's looked so much better, right?
He's increasing his value.
Yeah, true.
If nothing else, he's increasing his value, and that's all we can ask. Man, it's funny. I wanted to look up the numbers just to see, because you mentioned DeAnthony Melton has been playing a lot better recently, and I completely agree. He's been shooting a lot better. We've seen him finish at the rim better than in the past. It's still not great, but it's gotten better. So I looked it up. Harden is averaging 14 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists on 36% shooting from the three-point line. DeAnthony Melton, just to equate that replacement in the starting lineup, 12 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, shooting 40% from the three-point line. Make that make sense, but to your point, it just shows how deep this team is. Because you have somebody giving you the same production in your starting lineup from a metrics standpoint. Then you have Batum, who's giving you like 10 times more than what PJ Tucker gives you. Even if it's just 10 points, PJ Tucker gives you 0. So that's 10 times better. And then you add in the bench production, right? And the guys you've added there. This is the best team. It's to the point where we're asking ourselves, do we go out and try to get another star? Like, or do we just keep this depth? I would love to see what it looks like with Kelly Oubre before we do anything, man. I really would.
Obviously, we're still waiting for Kelly to come back, so it's not even a fully healthy team. And Springer was out last night. And
Mo Bamba looked good the other night,
right,
against the Lakers. I think it was
Daniel House before getting hurt was looking like he could play in this rotation. Paul Reed calls out a top 75 player for flopping before the game. And holds his own. Like, that's pretty impressive.
And he's hitting the threes.
Yeah, like I know they were down for a majority of this game. I mean, the Lakers came out, had a lead for like 5 minutes, and then it was all Sixers from that point.
Yeah.
But like, if you're Anthony Davis, you heard it. How do you not go out there and just punish Paul Reed just for a possession or two? Just say, give me the ball, and I'm going to put this kid on the block, and let's see what happens. He doesn't.
I don't even think I saw him like go at Paul Reed once.
He didn't at all.
I don't think they matched up, which is just weird. Like, weird.
Like
I said, it felt like the Lakers kind of just gave up that game, like gave up in that game very early. But the thing I did like, I mean, I don't love Patrick Beverley shooting 8 threes. I mean,
no.
Let it fly, but like, let's calm down. Let's cut that in half. Maybe 4, 3, maybe 2 attempts.
I mean, it was definitely like they baited him into it early. He hit a couple early, which is his makes, right?
Yeah.
But then the more attempts come to, I think just the game. I think just being up 22, 27, like, just fire it because you're open. But
man, that's coming from a Lakers fan too. AD is soft. I hate to agree because I do like AD as a player, but I mean, that points to him kind of being a little soft there, man. But Maxey with 12 threes in this game. I just want to continue to see them hunt those 3-point attempts. Hunt them. Like, if he shoots 9 for 20 and he hits 5 threes out of the 9 shots he makes, that's a great night, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But that two-man game, you mentioned a two-man game with him and Batum, that two-man game with him and Maxey, both of those have been flawless. And during this stretch, I mean, Tobias Harris has been kind of horrid, and he's been able to be hidden in that stretch. So hopefully he can get his vibe back. He played decently against OKC, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Marcus Morris gave you 16 last night in 20 minutes. 4 of 5 from deep, 6 of 8
from the 3-point line.
Yeah.
So you don't need the Tobias in that case, right? Like, that's the type of depth that you have, man. It's
right. And
the
thing I like
over
most,
the Embiid numbers, man. My God. The passing.
But, right. His first triple-double of the year. Listen, the thing I like the most, though, is with everybody, but more so these role players that are potentially looking for paydays this offseason, where, I mean, what attracts money, right? What attracts other teams, other suitors? Yeah. Scoring the ball, right? Well, what are all these role guys doing? Finding ways to impact the game, even when they're not shooting great from the floor. Even when when they don't have the ball as much. Like Robert Covington didn't score a point last night. He was still plus 14. He had 7 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block in 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, even when Patrick Beverley only takes 1 shot and he's 1 for 1 or 0 for 1 from the floor, he still has 4 or 5 rebounds and 2 or 3 assists and a steal in the game. That's what I love most about this team, because it's complementary, Scotty.
Yeah.
Even Kelly Oubre Jr. is looking for a bag. And his scoring numbers before getting injured were ridiculous, but he was still impacting the game in other ways. When it wasn't his night, he shared the ball. He deferred. He wasn't looking to just continue the Kelly Oubre show. And that's something, I don't know if that's all on Nick Nurse and the staff. I don't know if it has to do with the leadership of Joel Embiid. Whatever it is, they're bought into this system.
You mentioned...
And to have that early in the season is huge.
You mentioned Kelly Oubre as well, man, and I just wanted to see if what I thought would be true. And he's shooting 50% from the field. Like, the big thing for him coming into the Sixers was, the amount of shots. He took 17 shots a game for Charlotte last year to get to 20 points per game and 43% from the field. But shooting 50% from the field, it's the best in his career. 37.8% from the 3-point line is also the best in his career. He's shooting at an all-time efficient rate for him. So it just kind of speaks not only to Oubre, but just what this team is doing when they're working in unison, and makes it even more exciting for when he comes back.
Like, I'd be super interested to get a side-by-side of film of Kelly Oubre's looks from 3 and all last year in Charlotte to his looks surrounded by Embiid and Maxey.
Yeah.
Just think about how much easier his life that they make his life, and think about how much easier he makes their life when he's shooting 39% from 3.
And it's
complimentary.
I just imagine in the postseason, man, where Embiid will get, double, triple team. They might start doubling Maxey as soon as he crosses half court, like some teams have been trying early on in this season. And when that happens and you leave Nicholas Batum wide open at the 3-point line in the corner, or, even Robert Covington letting it fly, man. He's not shooting it at the best clip, but he is making some, and letting it fly and keeping the defense honest is all we can ask. DeAnthony Melton, 40% from 3. Tyrese Maxey, 40+% from 3. They've never had the amount of shooting around this core in Embiid. And I mean, you talk about the shooting, the length, the defense. I mean, it's a bunch of like factors that we have never seen on this team. And so that's why, when I hear some of our counterparts, talk about Daryl Morey, I have to ask, like, what the hell are you talking about, man? This guy has turned this team into
because it wasn't modern day basketball team. It was Scotty. Think about this. Why were they upset with Daryl Morey's the handling of the Harden situation, and then the return and the lack of free agent signings and yada yada? Because why? because they're not the names they're accustomed to.
Right.
They're not big. They're not stars. They're not all-stars, et cetera, et cetera. Well, those same people are the same ones that don't want a star anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm not even saying that I want to start, but those are the people that are like, no, I'm not trading for LaVine. That's fine. I'm not trading for LaVine now either, probably.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like those same people wanted LaVine more so than anything 3 months ago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's funny, man.
It's interesting, man. Got to give a little bit of praise to Daryl Morey. We're sitting here. We're not even talking about the draft compensation that he's built up. That 2028 Clippers pick is looking golden.
Think about what he acquired when he got here. The way he was able to get out of that Al Horford contract, and then and the Josh Richardson situation, and then he brings in a guy like Seth Curry who was valuable to this team for 2.5 years.
Drafts Tyrese Maxey,
space around Joel Embiid, drafted Tyrese Maxey,
drafts Jaden Springer. I mean, Jaden Springer, by all means, hasn't
I believe Daryl's the one that drafted Isaiah Joe.
I believe so.
Paul Reed.
Paul Reed might be on the brink there. I can't remember if he was actually Daryl Morey, but I believe it could be the same draft. Did he come out the same year as Tyrese Maxey?
I think and from DePaul. Yeah, I'm not sure. Isaiah Joe. I'm trying to remember. Isaiah Joe came from what? Arkansas. I don't remember.
Yeah, he did. He got drafted from Arkansas. So this is Paul Reed's 4th year in the league. So
could you imagine if Isaiah Joe was still a Sixer?
Oh my God. You saw him the other night, man, just letting it fly.
Dude's lights out. Imagine that dude with the spacing of this lineup.
Yeah. Yeah, he and Maxey were the same year. So Daryl Morey also brought in Paul Reed, brought in DeAnthony Melton. I mean,
and listen, man, he is the perfect fit for this team.
Brings in Nick Nurse. We don't get Nick Nurse without Daryl Morey.
But he was already here. He put on the hat. He was ready to be here. His mom was excited.
Do you think Mikal Bridges would accept that, coming back? It is different management, I get. Well, no,
I think so, right? You got to look at your
chance to actually win.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. But what's their asking price, bro? If that is at all a room, something you could.
Because I'm not clearing out. I'm not trading Nicholas Batum by any means. That's not happening.
This season has gotten to a point where I don't want to include Tobias Harris. I don't want to mess with anything this team has going on. Now, I will say, right, you get Boston. I'd have to look at the schedule. You get Boston this Friday. I'm assuming you're going to get the Bucks. I want to see before the deadline those key matchups continue and see what the Sixers look like, because we could sit here 12-5, 1-1 against Boston, 0-1 against Milwaukee so far. Yeah. We sit here all sunshine and rainbows, but if they continue, if they lose to Boston Friday and they lose to Milwaukee again, and all of a sudden you're 1-5 against those two teams, come 1-6 come deadline time, it does make you kind of think in the back of your mind, is it going to take something else to beat these guys in a 7-game series?
Yeah,
but I don't believe so. I believe that this team is fine. Again, you take night one against Milwaukee with none of the depth, none of these new guys from the trade.
Didn't have James Harden either, right? It's not like you had the replacement.
Lost by 1 on the road in that one. Beat Boston, lost to Boston in a week. Okay.
And the simple truth is, you look around the league, man, there's not a team. There's not a team in the NBA, let alone the Eastern Conference, that doesn't have a hole on the roster. Denver right now, they're going through a multitude of injuries, right? Jamal Murray's going to miss some time there. You look up at Milwaukee, they just haven't gotten it going like you expected with Damian Lillard added to that team.
No, I think 2 of Milwaukee's last three of Milwaukee's last wins, they've been down double digits late in the game. And obviously they've come back to their credit, right? And they're winning games.
How do you feel about this matchup with the Pelicans tonight, man?
It's an interesting one. I haven't looked
in New Orleans.
I haven't looked at the injury report. I don't know what.
Looks like Zion should play. So Zion, Brandon Ingram should be good to go.
I have CJ and Trey
CJ's
Murphy.
Game time decision. Yeah. Trey Murphy the third's a big one. He's a game time decision as well.
I mean, it definitely depends how healthy New Orleans is. If CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy's out, obviously it's a big advantage for the Sixers. But they're an awkward matchup, I think. I think Zion against his team is an awkward matchup. You're not throwing Embiid on him. Can anybody else guard him on this team? Right?
Did you see what he did to James Harden the other night?
Zion?
Yeah, he just like ripped the ball out of James Harden's hands and then like dunked it on a putback. You know, I had to share that. That's my guy from Duke. So anytime,
dude. And by the way, I heard you talk for me. I saw that they lost and they were winning when I had checked the score, but I had no idea that Jokic was out.
Yeah, Jokic did not play in that game, man, and they still found a way to lose to Reggie Jackson. So I mean, I don't know. You can't make this shit up with the
former Clipper Reggie Jackson.
It's a lot deeper than James Harden, I think, with that team. For sure.
But no, this Pelicans team though.
Because to be fair, it feels like Batum wasn't even making this much of a difference on that Clippers team. Like, I don't know if it was because of his usage. Yeah. Maybe we just didn't watch a lot of Clippers ball, but it didn't feel like he and Rocco got even the playing time that they're getting now to make the difference.
No, and do you want to know why I think that is? Because I agree with you. I've actually watched, like, when you do watch however minimal amount of games of Clippers basketball you could over the last couple of years, it was Batum sitting in the corner, maybe a ball finds him for an open three here or there. But for the most part, no, his shooting number, like he never a high volume guy. He's not a high volume guy here, but he shoots more here. He's more involved in the offense here. And that's why. Yeah. Because what do you have in LA? Paul George.
Dribblers.
Isolation.
Yep.
Kawhi Leonard. Isolation. The bench guys, Norman Powell, isolation. So where does a guy like Nicholas Batum, who's, not much of a ball handler, a good, like he dies, he sits away in the corner. And when the ball doesn't find him, he just wastes away for hours at a time. So I think, man, a lot of credit has to be given to Nick Nurse and this staff, to Nick Nurse's system for the way that this team is bought in already, because everybody seems to be bought in. Even Marcus Morris, who made a comment about like, man, like this is an adjustment for me. Like I've started everywhere I've been. I'm not a starter now. That's fine, but I need to get used to it. Well, now it seems like he's getting used to it. Nurse is giving him playing time. So
even the little interviews I'm listening to about Nick Nurse and like his practice, requirements, and how even if it's just 45 minutes on an off day for practice, they get in there, they're locked in at practice, and they're getting these plays figured out. And, the other side of it, I've heard a couple of interviews with Rico Hines, Bobby Jackson. It's like these guys haven't even tapped in fully to what Nick Nurse runs as a whole, the different things that he will try throughout the season. So there's still more to come from this team, man. That's like the scary part. I feel like not scary for us, but more exciting, I guess you would say, but scary for the rest of the NBA is that Embiid is basically averaging like a triple-double right now in the last couple games. He's figuring it out offensively as far as getting the ball to his
he's an all-star.
But also scoring 30-plus points still, right? Getting his 10-plus rebounds still, being impactful in the defensive end. But you're just now seeing what Batum can do as he gets more comfortable, what Tyrese Maxey can do as his, usage goes up. And then we're just going to throw in a guy that can average, 15 to 20 points per game in Kelly Oubre. Like, that's what's scary about this team. Paul Reed's still figuring out his role. Jaden Springer.
All of these different guys, 50+% from the floor on almost 20 points per game.
Yeah.
It is a lot of fun, man. They're at the point, and we've said this since basically night one, where they're at the point of just must watch. Like, no matter if they're playing a dog opponent, no matter who it is, you want to sit down and watch the Sixers game each and every night, because you're learning something new about this new group each and every time out on the floor. You're seeing someone else step up. You're seeing, like, think about through 17 games so far, you've gotten your dominance from Joel. You've had wild nights from Maxey. You've had Tobias step up, Oubre, whatever. But we've had a Daniel House game.
Yeah.
We've had a Jaden Springer game. You have Marcus Morris, scoring 20 and 16 and whatever. You've had Pat Bev get, like, it's just the way that they've had each and every new guy kind of find a home here is like you said, just exciting to watch, because
even that Boston game we talk about where they lost, Robert Covington goes out and gives you 16. It's like you needed something that night, right? There was just nothing happening that night for Embiid, Maxey across the board. And, Rocco can come out and give you 16 as well from his minimal input offensively. So they can get it from all different parts of the team. And I think that's what makes them so dangerous. It's like you come into a game planning against this Sixers team. What do you look to eliminate?
Yeah.
What do you look to take away? And then what does that open up for the rest of the team?
I think for the last thing I'll say here, man, you obviously have 5 losses on the year so far.
Yeah.
And you've dealt with trades and guys being out, and now you have more injuries, etc. There hasn't been a loss of the 5 where they're really like the Timberwolves lost. You lost by 13, whatever, and Embiid didn't, whatever. Scratch that one off.
Yeah,
right?
That's one I will throw out.
Your
sure.
4 other losses,
Bucks,
you've never been beat up. They really haven't been beaten up healthy, right? And then they're still not healthy. Like the Celtics, even though the Celtics were shorthanded, the Sixers were shorthanded, to Brett's point, right?
Yeah.
The Cavs game, you're still shorthanded. You lose in overtime. The Bucks game, you're extremely shorthanded at that point. You lose by 1. The Pacers, you lost by 6 on the second time playing them in a shootout, right? So it's still not healthy. So even with everything that's going on, the new fits, the injuries, the whatever, they haven't really been knocked to the canvas yet.
Yeah.
And while you can say that won't last, I'll say as a counter that they can only get better with this group.
Yeah.
That they can only gain more chemistry and more continuity and more everything with this team playing together longer.
The crazy part is, man, in December, they have an opportunity that they could really get ahead as far as their record, man. You look across the board, the best teams that they'll play, they obviously play the Celtics on Friday. That's December 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a winning record. Then you don't play another team with a winning record until December 20th against the Minnesota Timberwolves in Philly. And then the next one isn't until December 25th against the Heat.
Christmas Day, baby.
And then you have the Magic as well on the 27th. So what I'm trying to say, this is a huge opportunity, right? If you can get through this month, maybe get a W against the Pelicans tonight. You get to December, we'll see what happens with Boston in Boston. But from then there, it's time to really take control and start to build your growth in the standings, man. There's a lot of opportunity in that month for them. So, they're in a good spot. They're in a great spot.
They've been shorthanded against every game they've lost so far this year, and they haven't been really beaten up yet. I agree with you. You know what I just realized before we wrap up here, checking out the schedule, me and you might be getting to a game in February, obviously sooner if you want to. But Steph and the Warriors come to town on your boy's birthday.
Oh, yeah.
Your boy's 26th. So
hell yeah.
We might have to get to that one. It's a Wednesday, kind of shitty,
man.
but your favorite day, right? So
tickets, tickets will be cheap. That's all you can ask for.
Exactly.
Cheaper.
Sure. But guys, with that said, that's going to wrap up this hour-and-a-half long show. We had to. It's been a week since we got on here with the long holiday weekend. Recovering from the holiday weekend, recovering from that Eagles overtime win. It took a couple days, but we're back here on the Phaithful.
I was down and out yesterday and the day before. I was done.
I'd be hurting.
Those hangovers last 3 days now.
If you guys like the content, if you're new to the channel, make sure to smash that subscribe button. It's the best way to be interactive here with us on the YouTube channel. We're also have 2 other channels here at DSM, the NFL Turf Talk channel and the Scotty Talks NBA channel for all your NFL and NBA content. So make sure to share and subscribe over there on those 2 as well. For myself, for Scotty, for DSM, have a great rest of your Wednesday. Go Birds. Wednesday. Go Birds and go Sixers.